Good evening, everyone. We'll call this regularly scheduled meeting of Bridgewater Town Council to order. And as always, the town of Bridgewater is located in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and it is our privilege to be here. The agenda's been circulated. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, motion to approve the agenda circulated. Deputy Mayor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Newell. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Told you it'd be like a minute. Announcements. I know we've got a big event coming up.
So we're happy to announce lots planned for Canada Day, which is just a little over a week away. So everything will be happening in the downtown area, King Street, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the, as I said, King Street and Old Bridge. So we have the Multicultural Festival that will be taking place from about 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the Pijanuskak Park area. So we have a whole line of entertainment there. We have the Kids Zone, which will be further down King Street, and that will take place from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Everything from bouncy castles to Lions Club train, face painting, and more. And we'll have lots of food trucks. So from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., we have a few of them mentioned are Mama Pita, Roll-On 2 Chimney Cakes, Smokin' Stein, Toasties Grilled Cheese Snack, Twisted Whisk, and Taste Delicious Treats. And don't forget to have picnic on the bridge from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. so you can actually enjoy your treats or lunch on the bridge. We also have at the location of the TD Canada Trust parking lot, we have the 3-on-3 tourney, which is youth basketball in the parking lot. So registration is required. The Legion Breakfast is back again from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Always a good start to your day. Fire truck fun, we will have fire trucks near Riverside Park from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. We'll have an outdoor swim at the Michelin Bridgewater Outdoor Pool on Jubilee Road. That will happen from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Stay tuned, stay around for the street dance starting at 4 to 6 p.m. on King Street with DJ Funk Dub. And we have a family movie.
Thanks for enunciating that correctly.
We have a family movie over at, thanks to the venue of HB Studios at 5 p.m. and the movie is Goat. And stay around for Canada Day Trivia at 7 p.m. hosted by Michelle Gryphon at the King Street Beer location. So hopefully more information and details will follow in the next day with announcements on radio as well as social media. So great. Hope you can join us.
Thank you, Councillor Bashir. On Saturday, a number of us attended the grand opening, if you will, of the new spaces at Small World Learning Centre, 86 new childcare spaces, which is vital to the continued growth of our community. We cannot attract young families, we cannot attract healthcare professionals if we do not have adequate childcare services in the community. And so having that open is huge for our, not just for the town, but for the region. And so a number of us from council were there for the exciting ribbon cutting. I think there were half a dozen kids cutting the ribbon, which is amazing. It's great space and the outdoor space that's there. And also the celebration of 150 years for the Bridgewater Bulletin. So I don't know the answer to this question, but my question is that potentially one of the oldest or longest running local newspapers in the country, like uninterrupted. I'm sure there's some that have kind of stopped and started and stuff like that, but it's got to be one of the oldest, at least in Nova Scotia. But I would think across the country there can't be that many. We're just gonna say it is. Somebody will fact check it, and I'll get a bunch of angry emails. But I think that's almost as old as you, Eric. Like 150 years.
PBW, yeah.
Looking good, though.
Interesting choice to target council with.
I was like second guessing. Any other announcements from members of council?
A couple of comments.
Old timer.
I'll refrain from what I want to say to the mayor. I'm just joking. I just want to acknowledge June 10th, we had a pretty horrific event in our town with the fire. And I just have to thank the Bridgewater Fire Department, Bridgewater Police, and, all first responders really that put their lives in their hand to go fight that fire. Unfortunately, it resulted in a loss of life in our community. The conditions that day were not favorable. So I also want to thank the local businesses that stepped up and fed the fire department, gave them water, the Gatorades and things like that. It's certainly a hard day for many, but when many people are running away from a scene like that, they're running to it. So I just want to thank them. Also do want to thank, you mentioned the bulletin earlier, but thank local media for their immediate work, getting the word out there about the street being closed down. And again, just my heartfelt gratitude to the fire department for keeping the community as safe as possible and doing what they can. And I do have a couple of notes just about the bulletin as well, that I had a great chat with Kevin McBain, who now owns the paper, and got a little bit of his history. Kevin and I are colleagues, and he chose to come here. And, from Saskatchewan, he's had a newspaper background, and when Advocate was ready to sell, he stepped up to buy. So he made a decision to invest in our town, to keep the local paper here, and keeping local journalism. I'm looking across the room, Stacey, or Councillor Caldwell, you certainly have a history there, but to me that means a lot right now, and 150 years is a lot, and they've exemplified what good journalism is. They've created good relationships across the community, so kudos to Kevin and his team, and thank you for investing in our community. Yeah, that's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Yes, thank you for mentioning the events of June 10th. We will be recognizing all the fire services that came to the aid of our community, over 15 departments. So like we did in 2017 when the other fire on King Street, we will have a time where we can coordinate having representation from all those departments here at Town Hall so we can properly recognize them and thank them. Deputy Mayor McDonald.
I just wanted a reminder that the 10th year of Music on the Riverbank kicked off last Thursday and will continue every Thursday until September 17th at 6:30 p.m. at Bitchaniwiska Park. And I believe South Shore Centre is the rain location this year, so that the music will go on even if the weather doesn't cooperate.
Great, thank you. Any other announcements? All right, it's time for delegations, and we are very privileged today to have some remarkable students joining us. We have Ife, Lucy, Max, and Dylan, who, of course, really represented our community just like the highest level with their science projects. And council had some time before the meeting to look at those projects, and we're very proud of the work that you did, and the projects are fascinating, really, really fascinating. And certainly we have probably a ton of questions that are rolling around our heads just from the few minutes that we've spent. But maybe I'll ask Ms. Berrigan if you'd like to come up and introduce the students, and they can talk about their projects.
Thank you once again. It's an honor to be here again. It's our second time that you guys have asked us to come in with the kids project. So just a little brief thing about what the kids have accomplished. So they have done school-based projects that then went on from that level to the regional science fair, where they then competed against other schools in our local area. And from there, they were selected as the best 4 projects to go on and represent the South Shore Center for Education at the National Science Fair level. So it is a huge accomplishment. They are there with 500 of the other best science fair projects. And I think the stat is, over the whole entire country, it's kind of like roughly around a little less than 1 million kids that start a science fair project, and it tapers off to that very small few group of kids who get to compete at that level. And it is an amazing experience. Each of these kids won just by attending a $1,000 scholarship to attend University of Alberta, just by their sheer being there. We did have one student this year, we're very honored, that won a bronze medal, and then with that medal, other scholarships to other universities across the country. That gives her other options with that again. So, when I'm not going to talk much longer, I'm going to get each of the students to give you a 2-minute blurb about what their project is, and the idea behind it is they will tell you what their question was and then what they found out. Okay? So our first one up will be Lucy Bishop. Okay.
So my project is all about microplastics in our water sources. And I chose this project because last year at the regional fair, my project was on microplastics, just plastic in general affecting the marine ecosystems. And so when I was talking with community members at public viewing, I really noticed that there wasn't a whole lot of awareness around microplastics in our water sources that we drink, not just the raw water sources such as rivers and lakes. So I really wanted to investigate further microplastics in our drinking water sources, and just for my own curiosity as well. So, my husband's all the way back there. So I went to St. Mary's University to do my testing, and so sort of what that was is I used phase contrast microscopy to test my water samples, which were unfiltered water, which came from my house and went through the town's standard treatment system. And then there was the filtered water, which was from the school, and that went through the town's treatment system, and then an additional filter within the fountain itself. And then high purity lab water, which came from St. Mary's University lab, and then that went through an ELGA lab water purification system. And so I use phase contrast microscopy, which essentially what this does is, like when you're taking like a photo with your phone, you can have filters on it. And so this is sort of like a filter for what you're seeing in the microscope. And because some microplastics can be clear and they have a similar light refractive index as water, this really helps me differentiate from the particle to the water itself. And so I can more accurately count the particles. And they appear, if you can see, probably not, but they appear sort of iridescent in the photos. So it makes them especially easily to identify their shapes and sizes. Okay. So the unfiltered water contained the largest amount of particles with a mean of 133.33 particles, followed by filtered water with a mean of 121.89 particles, and then the high purity lab water with a mean of 40.33 particles per 3,000ths of a microliter, which is an extremely small amount of water. So the amount of microplastic particles that were in such a small amount of water is frankly astonishing to me and quite concerning, because there are so many negative health effects of microplastics, such as cardiovascular diseases, chronic inflammation, and it really affects like our internal organs such as the liver, kidneys, and especially our nervous system and brain, which is really, really scary. So I found that actually all the particles were under 150 micrometers, and that means that they can be absorbed by our small intestine. And I separated them into two categories, so smaller than 10 micrometers and larger than 10 micrometers. And the majority of the particles are actually smaller than 10 micrometers, which means they can actually cross cellular membranes. So this is extremely concerning. So what I'd like to do next, is look at a wider variety of water sources, such as well water, bottled water, and then like water filtered by a Brita, and then look more into like solutions for removing them from the water, such as reverse osmosis, ultrafiltration, and other ones. So, yeah.
Wow. I don't know.
I'm sure you wanted to do your whole presentation.
That was great. Can we maybe ask a couple of questions? If there are a couple of questions, I don't know if anyone wants to ask questions. Councillor Conklin.
Thank you, Lucy. It's a question that I asked you earlier, but it'd be beneficial to share with everybody. So you have 3 different samples back there, unfiltered, filtered, and thank you. So where does the town of Bridgewater, our drinking water, fit in there?
So it's at the top with the largest amount of microplastic particles. But I think it's important to note that the high purity lab water went through an extremely extensive purification process, and like just even the other filter, it does make a difference. So it obviously is very concerning, but there aren't any guidelines, even in the Canadian Drinking Water Quality Guidelines. So there isn't really a precedent for the amount of particles that should or shouldn't be in the water. So it's hard to say, like, actually on a scale, like on a ladder, how concerning it really is.
Councillor Collins is taking notes because he's also the chair of the Public Service Commission, which delivers all the water that you tested.
Town of Bridgewater still has very high-quality drinking water, and it tastes very good.
Good sales pitch.
That's great. That's great. Any other questions? Wow, I just found this project fascinating, and hope that you continue with where you're going with that. Councillor Fasheer?
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. And I had a question that I asked you earlier too, is just how you came up with the topic and chose, to do the water testing. Maybe you could just explain how you came up with the science idea.
Yeah, so I guess it really started when I was 10 years old and I volunteered at beach cleanup on Cape St. Helena with my mom and sister. And so it was just really shocking me, like the amount of, not necessarily plastic pollution, but just pollution in general. And it sort of got me started on just learning a bit more about plastic pollution for myself. And then last year at a regional fair, my project was on plastic pollution and how it affects the marine ecosystem. And I had a little bit on microplastics, but not a lot. And a lot of people in the community weren't really aware of how prevalent of a problem microplastics in our water sources are. And so it really urged me to dig deeper, and just for my own curiosity as well, I was really interested to keep going with the microplastic sort of train.
Great.
Fantastic. Councillor Caldwell?
Does this change the way you consume water?
Oh, good
Well, it
question.
actually has. My mom was actually there with me at the lab, and I was like, oh, there's actually a lot of particles in here. And she was like, oh my gosh, let me see. So she took a look in the microscope, and she was like, oh my gosh, this is our water, like, coming from our tap. And I think it really changes when you see it in person, too, like, not just in the photos or just thinking about the numbers. And so we actually bought a Brita Elite filter, and it says it removes up to 90% of the microplastics, but I'd like to fact check that myself. But yeah, that definitely has changed how we consume our water.
Send the results to council.
Have you come back to council after you test your Brita filter? We may be leading in national change here. That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So our next student to be up is Max Comstock and his project.
Hello.
Welcome, Max.
Of course, my name is Max Comstock, and I'm a grade 7 student. And my project was to see how Fairfluid can help clean up oil spills. So Fairfluid is a naturally magnetic liquid made of nanoscale particles like magnetite, which is like a crystal. And then basically, I then tested if it could remove oil, and I did 4 main tests to see if it could actually remove the oil. My first test was to see if it would work in general. So I just put some water, some oil, and some Fairfluid in a container, mixed it around, and see if it could remove the oil. When it did, I then moved on to my second experiment, where I was exact with every measurement, using 710 milliliters of water and 118 milliliters of oil, and then finally adding 2 milliliters of Fairfluid to that mixture. And then I stirred it around to try and simulate waves, and I also added salt water, because of course most oil spills happen in the ocean, which is salt water. So after I did that, I then used a magnet and tried to remove everything. Once I saw the results, it worked way better than experiment 1, where we just tossed a bunch of stuff in. So after seeing that, I noticed it visually got cleaner, but did it actually get cleaner? So that's when we moved on to experiment 3, getting a way stronger magnet using experiment 2. I did notice there were still quite a few big particles left in the water, even after a few minutes of testing with the magnet. So once we went on to experiment 3, of course we got a stronger magnet, which is a river fishing magnet that can hold up to 100 pounds. And we also kept the exact same measurements, but this time we got a scale. So we did the exact same measurements, put everything in, put Fairfluid in, and we noticed with the stronger magnet, it worked way better, it removed so much more, and even in the pictures we took, you could visibly notice a massive improvement, which was really good on its own, but now it was time to actually weigh the results. Before we actually tried to remove stuff, it weighed 0.849 kilograms, and then after we removed everything, it weighed 0.05 kilograms less, which in that scale is actually a pretty good amount because it was a pretty small container. So after we did that, we noticed by weight it got cleaner.
visually it got cleaner, but did the water actually get cleaner? So that's when we moved on to experiment 4, and we used a conductivity meter. While using the conductivity meter, we measured all the different states, just salt water, just salt water and oil, just salt water, oil, and fair fluid, and then of course, all that combined, but with the fair fluid removing the oil. So after doing the measurements, it actually did get quite a bit cleaner after we tried removing the oil using fair fluid. So that was a really good sign, and now that all of our experiments were a plus, we started doing a little bit more research, and this is where I got into what I wanted to do next. So this whole time I was looking at the oil on the top, but some oil sinks on the bottom, so I want to see if I can get that oil. So I'm going to do a few more experiments and research a little more on that. But the next steps I want to do ahead of this are some of the bigger ones that I think are really important for not just this town, but the whole world. So, looking online, I'm not going to lie, this project's been done before, but I've never seen anything about how it could be used on land. That's what I want to test on. I want to see if it could pick oil up through the dirt, through the land, and if that then works, could I make a little kit I could then sell in a store? I need to find the exact amount of fair fluid and the exact magnet type I would need to do that. But if this worked, I think this could be a great business opportunity and a really good opportunity to help the climate.
That's awesome. Well, you and I talked about this before. I have 2 boys that like to change their oil in my driveway. And of course, we'll start by saying, I won't spill any. And then I have a giant puddle of oil. So this fascinates me at the possibility of being able to remove the oil that many of us have in our driveways from our cars or our kids that are changing their oil in our driveway. I don't even know how this happens. I have an electric car. I don't have any oil, but it's all their oil. Anyway, I find this fascinating because, you know, if you drive around any community, you can see, you know, that there's been spills, and we see them at gas stations. So to be able to clean those up beyond the ocean, as you said, that's fascinating. Questions from council? Deputy Mayor?
Where did the question come from? How did you come up with this idea?
So I was actually online when Science Fair first started for the school level, and of course I was looking for a topic to do, as I didn't know what to do yet. So I was looking at videos online, and I stumbled across something that used fair fluid, and of course it was about a year ago when I started this, and it made a type of soup using fair fluid, and it's controlled by a magnet. So that was really cool to me. So I researched fair fluid, and looking at the uses, I actually saw it could be used to clean up oil spills. And the reason that fascinated me so much was because at the time in science class, we were learning about oil spills, and we didn't learn too much about the effects they had. We just learned what they were. So doing this project really opened my eyes on this really is a big problem. And I know a lot of adults know that, but we don't really get taught that in school. So I kind of want this kind of subject to be more widespread in schools.
That's really interesting, that we've got a lot of property owners who would love to know the result of your next step. Thank you.
Councilor Newell?
Yeah, really cool project. Do you know the fair fluid, does that remove with the oil, or does it, do you know if it stays there, or?
It removes with the oil, and there's actually a method which we couldn't do because the machine to do the method costs thousands of dollars, and I don't know if we could get that online. But
Someone check Amazon.
so basically what it does, the fair fluid is removed with the oil, and it's like a big clump. So when the fair fluid mixes with the oil's now technically like a type of fair fluid. So now that they all get removed, you can actually, there's a device to separate the oil and fair fluid, so that oil can be reused where it was originally going to be put, and then that now separated fair fluid can be put back into the water to get more oil.
Neat.
Cool. That's cool. Other questions from council? That's fantastic. Thank you.
They remember like right down to the like decimal point, how much came out of their project
Yeah.
and what they did and stuff like that. So our next student is Ife Nawatu, and she is our bronze medal winner with her project.
She's going to tell us how to remember all this stuff.
So hi, my name is Ife. I'm a grade 8 student. math project is on binaural beats. So binaural beats is an auditory illusion that's created in the brain when using two types of mismatched frequencies. So for example, if you're using stereo headphones, which presents a different tone to each ear, you could hear 250 hertz in your right ear and 260 hertz in the left ear. The difference is 10 hertz, like in a mathematical sense, and the brain hears that and molds the brain waves to match that specific state. And depending on how big or small the difference is, depends on the effect it has on the person. So for my project, I tested how the two highest will compare against 99 students from grades 5 to 9 in terms of working memory. So they did the number test beforehand, which is like a string of numbers increases by 1 each time, and keep on increasing by the levels. Then they listen to their audio for 15 minutes on an online website that has like the preset audio, and did the test again to see if the scores got better or worse. So what I noticed was that the high beta, which is the second highest, had an increase of 0.04. The gamma had a decrease of 0.07, and white noise had a small increase of 0.005. White noise being the control group, which is like a steady frequency to act as a baseline almost. So this is important as the high beta was more in tune for the students, as it was more a path that the brain could follow since it's more kind of familiar, while gamma felt more jittery and you mentioned being uncomfortable, and you could kind of see the physical sensation people too. And it couldn't really focus well, and this can be used in certain aspects. So it can be used with older adults, so for memory, and then younger ones, so I want to see how that affects. And if we can spread out the research and we find some neurological diagnosis, some rehabilitation treatments that can be used in binaural beats to treat symptoms.
It's amazing. Wow. This is fascinating. Well, congratulations on your bronze medal. That's amazing. What an achievement. Any questions from council? Can you maybe remember the questions that you had earlier? Maybe we need to. I know when you and I talked before you went, my big question was, as someone who has to memorize a lot of stuff or try to memorize stuff for a speech, this is something that could help, right? So, yeah.
And I'm just thinking that it can also, the new idea of my project next year is kind of using that as a kind of aid for individuals who have maybe a neurological disorder. So for example, stroke, which kind of affects how the brain adapts to new information. Using binaural beats as a way to kind of as an aid to push them forward and kind of train their brain to be more adaptable, basically. And then the binaural beats can be expanded to that. I feel like it would be really interesting and could be really helpful too.
Wow. That's amazing. And we're all like trying to process this. Councillor Caldwell.
Can you, I mean, we can't hear them. Can you describe what the beats are like?
So it's kind of like frequency, so it's kind of, it's like a muted bell almost. So you don't really tell the difference. It's more something your brain creates. So to you, it's probably sounding the exact same thing, but there is a slight difference, and the brain hears that, but it's not a physical noise. That's why it's called an auditory illusion.
Oh, okay.
It's an illusion your brain creates, kind of trick your brain itself into like molding the brain waves.
Oh, okay.
It's
Interesting.
very layered.
Wild. Other questions? That was wonderful. Thank you so much, and congratulations again.
So we always have to do a lot of research when we're going to start working with them with their projects to get up to speed on what they're doing, because they come with lots of new ideas to the table that maybe we haven't actually thought of. So, and our last student, but not least, is Dylan DeVries and his project.
Hello, my name is Dylan, and my project is about solar panels. And I'd like to start off by asking, do you know, if any, or how many town of Bridgewater buildings have solar panels on them?
I'm looking at the mayor.
Like just the ones that the town owns?
Yeah.
Public Works Garage, Town Hall has some, but just for water.
The pool.
LCLC?
The pool.
The
We just
pool.
see the budget.
On Jubilee.
Yeah.
Counting them now.
4?
Seriously?
I need to put the beats on to remember. I don't know, 4? We have 4?
And do you clear those solar panels?
No, I don't think we clear those solar panels.
Not a snow.
Not in our budget.
So I live at a community called Trios Village, which has 513 solar panels on 4 residence buildings, a community hall, and a workshop. And over the course of a year, those solar panels produce approximately about as much power as we consume. So more power than we use in the summer and less power than we use in the winter. So I wanted to see how much energy we lose by all those solar panels being covered with snow in the winter. And I don't know if anybody noticed, but this past winter we had a lot of snow and we had a lot of cold weather. So the snow just kind of stayed on the solar panels for the whole winter and didn't really melt off. So I chose 4 panels that were similar and were accessible for me. And I went out between January 18th and February 18th of 2026, and I measured the depth of snow on the solar panels, the time of day, the amount of snow that was, the amount of coverage of snow on the solar panels, the temperature, and the cloud coverage. So I wanted to see how much, and then I would clear off 2 of my 4 solar panels to get a direct side-by-side comparison between solar panels with snow and without snow. And I wanted to see how much energy I could gain by clearing those solar panels off. So I found that solar panels without snow significantly outperformed solar panels with snow in the exact same conditions. So solar panels without snow average around 54.3% of the theoretical maximum, and as opposed to solar panels with snow, which only average 11.9% of the theoretical maximum. The difference, the reason that the cleared ones did not average 100% was because we had a lot of clouds. In my study period, only 3 days were completely cloud-free. So in Nova Scotia, at least for our community, every kilowatt hour that we produce saves 20, just over 20 cents. And about 500 grams of the CO2. So I found that by clearing just 1 solar panel, on a sunny day, we could gain over 1.5 kilograms of ECO2 and save 35 cents. So clearing solar panels does really help to gain power and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But should you bother? So many solar panels are either on steep roofs or there's no way to easily or safely get to them to clear them off. So if panels are not accessible, there's really the risk outweighs the reward. So, but for panels that are accessible and you have sunny forecast, it does make sense to clear solar panels because over an entire winter, by clearing about 10 solar panels, you can gain over $100. So if they're accessible, there is definitely, could be a reason to clear them off, but if they're not, there's no point.
That's amazing. So, I mean, most panels are, like you said, inaccessible, but your case study and your argument here is perhaps there's a place for someone to create some kind of system that will clean them off,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. And I would say that maybe less so in Bridgewater, but especially in like bigger cities, many panels are mounted like essentially ground-mounted solar panels on a roof because many roofs in big cities are flat, and then the panels are just mounted along it. So for Bridgewater, there's less people that have accessible panels, but definitely for other places, and even like Halifax, for example, there are more accessible panels.
Interesting. Questions?
And yes, there is definitely kind of a niche for being able to clear the snow off either autonomously or by using some surface coating, which would eliminate the risk for manual clearing.
Yeah, awesome. Councilor Newell, yeah.
I do have a question, because I was actually, a little birdie spoiled your project to me a while ago, because I do have solar panels that I do go on the roof and clear. So I was very excited. I was very excited to see this project. Your poster mentioned that battery storage could play a reason as to why you should clean them versus if you don't have storage, maybe it's not worth cleaning them. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so in Trans Village, in our community hall, we have a backup battery storage system to power just specifically our community hall in power outages. And it is I think it's 18.6 kilowatts. And specifically the panels that I was using to clear and the panels on the Common House Community Hall roofs are directly tied to batteries. So there's no connection to, well, there is a connection to the grid, but first all the power goes through the battery. So even when power is out, clearing those panels off will put power back into the battery, which then you can use for there. So a backup battery system that is directly tied to solar panels is another reason to clear solar panels off, or to at least know how to clear them off, because when power outages occur, as they often do in Nova Scotia, being able to deplete a battery and then just fill it back up again is really useful.
Wow, fascinating. Other questions, Deputy Mayor?
So through this process, and you've been at this for like a year now, through the process, what has been the best part of it for you? What's been most exciting or most challenging, most rewarding?
Oh, well, I enjoyed like answering a question for our community, because the way I actually started this project was in January. We had one of the things that really got momentum going was we had a power outage and we depleted our backup battery because it was a large power outage for days. And many of my neighbors were wondering, should we go out and clear solar panels off to replenish the backup battery? And that is why I have backup battery storage.
Other questions? Wonderful, thank you, John.
I don't know if you guys can know, but I just want to take a moment to thank the parents that are here with us tonight. I think it's quite a process the projects go through from regionals to get them ready for nationals, and my husband and I are very honored to be able to work with them. I also would like to mention Chad Frittenberg, who is here as a teacher from Bayview, and him and I have been partners kind of in crime with this for over 20 years. I won't give the exact number, but it doesn't happen. He's the guy who always calls about judging. So now there's a face with that face that's asking when we're looking for judges. And we have wide community support. The Regional Center for Education has been very good so far, fingers crossed, with helping a big portion of the funding that goes towards the national competition and getting us there, so it's no cost to the families for the kids to be able to go. But that also takes wider community support, and we have a very good community-based support so far for helping us with that, and with our regional fair, where people give the kids awards. So it's not, these four guys here represent the four that are going on. But usually there's about 70 to 80 students that come to regional fair, and we do from grades 5 to 12, and we work really hard at making sure that other projects that aren't getting this recognition get that recognition, and that could be anything from bursaries, grants. I don't know if you're familiar with the SHAD Awards, and that's a really big science think tank, kind of like for young people. So we had lots of that this year for juniors and intermediates, as well as seniors. And like the universities are still giving out bursaries, so it's a great way to get yourself sometimes $1,500 for your science fair project, plus just cash awards and that chance to meet other like-minded people and to meet community members. Because sometimes what it does, it creates a connection for a post-secondary option or even a career path, right? Because I know some of these guys are thinking about what they want to do in those futures, and this is a great way to explore that. So again, thank you so much for having us here, and we'll love to be back next year.
Well, thank you.
So I just want to give a little anecdote as I witness here. I've probably taught somewhere in the realm of about 200 university students, and the 4 presentations that I witnessed here shows a remarkable ability. I know public speaking is not easy. I personally love it. I know it's not easy. The 4 of you did not only an amazing job presenting, but your ability to be able to speak on your topic, you memorize your topic. That level of memorization presentation is a dying art, and I can truly give you, all 4 of you, incredible kudos. That was great work.
Yeah, thanks,
Like they have like 20 minutes to sell that puppy to 5 or 6 judges in a day, so it's a really impressive feat. So they should be very well recognized.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say, at that age, I was not standing up and talking in front of anybody. To be able to speak with that kind of confidence and take questions on the fly and answer them quickly is incredible. So beyond how amazing the projects are, I'll just echo what Councillor Newell said, is that to have you come up and deliver that as just strongly as you did is incredible. So I look forward to hearing and seeing more from each of you as these hopefully continue to go somewhere, because we're fascinated. Councillor Conk is going to have more questions about the water, I'm sure, and I got to clean up my driveway, so Max, I'll be reaching out. But these are all fantastic. Thank you for coming in, and again, thank you to the parents as well, who put a lot of hours in support, and thank you to
We need to pair a
you and
science
Chad.
project with the counselor, because I think we all saw like an
Yeah.
opportunity here.
Perfect.
So
Done. We'll put that motion on the floor. All right. Thank you for coming in.
And we're entirely going to take down our project.
All right. Perfect. You're not going to stay for the whole 2 more hours?
We'll be here for a bit. We got to them
All right, perfect, thank you. We'll move on with our other delegation. We'll ask Julie Langels here from the province of Nova Scotia to talk about the 25th year for the Order of Nova Scotia.
So that was a very tough act to follow. My presentation skills are probably not that good, but we'll give it a try here. Okay, so, Your Worship, members of council, thank you for having me to speak about this important program. I have packages for everybody. I don't know, did you get a presentation?
Yeah, we have the presentation in our agenda package. Yep. Yep.
For those of you who don't know, my name is Julie Langell, and I'm the province's Chief Protocol Officer. I work for a division of the Department of Intergovernmental Affairs called the Protocol and Honor Secretariat. And our division is responsible not only for the Order of Nova Scotia program, which I'm going to speak to you about this evening, but also the province's flag guidelines and half-masking directive, state funeral policy, the provincial table of precedence, incoming dignitary visits, honorary consular report liaison, and government event assistance. And I just bring that forward quickly to let you know part of our mandate for the province is to help with municipalities and towns. So if any of those things ever come to bear, if you have questions or you need anything in those regards, please feel free to reach out at any time. But today, I am presenting on the Order of Nova Scotia. We've started an initiative to get the word out to the towns and municipalities in hopes of increasing the number of yearly nominations. This year is a very interesting year for Order of Nova Scotia because not only is it the 25th anniversary of the Order, but also we've had some significant changes to the legislation and regulations surrounding the Order that I wanted to share with you tonight. So, do you have the, is it just me with the clicker?
Right there, yeah, you did it.
All right, thank you. Okay. So, what is the Order of Nova Scotia? So the Order of Nova Scotia is the highest honor that can be bestowed on by the province. And this year marks the 25th year, which is an important milestone for us. And it marks outstanding contributions in the fields such as business, academic, community leadership, volunteers, and public service. And who is eligible for the order. So changes to the legislation. So previously it was someone who was a resident of Nova Scotia. The new change, one of the new changes is that it's anyone who has an association with Nova Scotia. So you don't have to be born here, live here, but you had to make a significant contribution to the province in some way. So that's a change. People who cannot be nominated, politicians, judges, groups. So this is an individual investiture, an individual award. And it can be posthumous if the person is passed within that calendar year for the order. And how to nominate, I have that quickly. We have the forms that we sent you. They're just, we try to simplify them as much as possible. The forms are filled out. They're also on our website, which you just type in order.scotia.ca basically, and it brings up the website. Application or nominations are accepted all year. We put a deadline. It's usually the last Friday in April, but then the next day they start over for the next year, so they can be submitted at any time. You basically, for the nomination process, you need 4 people. You need 1 person to nominate, and you need 3 testimonial letters from people that can attest to that person's what they've done for the province. And you can file. You can also submit additional information if there's certificates or awards or things like that. Selecting recipients. So protocol, part of our office, what we do is we collect the nominations, we check them for completeness and that they're in the proper form, and then an independent advisory council meets, votes, and recommends appointment to the order. There's no fixed quotas or categories. We changed the number of people that can be invested each year. It's another change to the legislation. So it used to be you could invest 5 people. If there was a 6th person, that person had to be a youth between the ages of 16 and 25. There's a few that you'll be familiar with. We've only had a few. Sidney Crosby, of course, is one. Ellie Black, and our very own Stella Bowles from Lave is one, right? So I think those are the only 3, if I'm not mistaken. We've kind of done away with the youth category. Anyone can be nominated, and now for just the regular category, and we've increased to 10. So each year they can invest up to 10 people, which is another significant change. The advisory council. So the advisory council is made up of the chair, chief justice by virtue of their office, or the executive council by virtue of their office, 3 members appointed by the premier, 1 by the opposition, and 1 by the third party. So that's the makeup of the advisory council. And the insignia. So I did bring, just because it's nice to have the visuals, so while I tell you vote it, I'll just pass this around. This is what someone who is invested would get. The insignia, so it's presented by the Lieutenant Governor on behalf of the King. And it just, on this, it's a stylized Mayflower bearing the shield of arms of Nova Scotia and the Royal Crown. It's worn with a blue, white, red, and gold ribbon, and it also is presented with a lapel pin, just a small pin for daily wear. And members of the order are entitled to use the post-nominals of ONS or Queen for Life. And that is basically the presentation. So we're hoping to that you as members of council would find some people within the community or town that would that you could nominate to put forward their names, hoping that we can get one of the switches.
Okay. Thank you, Judy. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I feel like this is something we should, like, once a year, sit down as a council and talk about. Like, we don't do that, right? We don't think to sit down and maybe, like we do our provincial volunteer, we have, that name comes to us from a committee, but I'm wondering if, not dissimilar from the audit committee, if it should be a committee of council that once a year, throughout the year, we bring forward names and we put them together, and then we submit one. That'd be kind of good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just going to leave this here?
Just write in your own name.
Oh, I thought it was white. It's not white.
No, it's Mayflower.
Yeah. That's,
It's very
Are we going to order appetizers first? No?
So a couple of questions I had, I've done a few of these so far, and a couple of questions that I had were how many times can a nomination be submitted, and how long is it good for? So a nomination can be submitted, it's good for, we keep it for 3 years. So you just contact us at the protocol office anytime if you have any questions. But normally, if you were to get a hold of us and say we'd like to resubmit that nomination for another year, we'll do that up to 3 times. And then you'd have to submit a whole new nomination after that. But for 3 years, you can do that. So if they weren't selected the first year, they can stay in. And the other question was, can it be someone that has made a significant contribution to the community but are not necessarily well known within the whole province? And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. So it would just be a matter of demonstrating that this person has made a significant contribution, and they can be, anyone can be, and we encourage people from, we don't know, right? The province, as a province, doesn't know sometimes the people of the smaller communities, so it would be great to have those nominations.
Great. Questions? No?
Would you like to bring this back to a future agenda to discuss the process?
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be wise. So we will bring this back to council to discuss a process for us to nominate people.
Perfect.
That's great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Really appreciate it.
All right, we are moving on to the public hearing section of our council, so I will pause the council meeting, call the public hearing to order. I will note that all the statutory requirements have been met, and turn it over to our staff to go through, final reading for 547 King Street, land use bylaw amendment, change in definition.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present for second and final reading for a proposed text amendment to the land use bylaw. We'll start off right with our staff recommendations. Staff recommends that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater give second and final consideration to the proposed text amendment within the land use bylaw to include naturopaths in the definition of office. We received an application earlier this year from an applicant who would like to operate a naturopathic practice at 547 King Street, which is located in the historic commercial zone, the C1. This zone does permit offices as a use. However, the current definition of office in the land use bylaw does not explicitly include naturopaths among the list of allowable practitioners. Council had asked during first reading where the need for this amendment arises, and staff would like to be clear that this is due to a need to distinguish between a clinic and an office use and unique offerings of a naturopathic practice. Under the land use bylaw, an office is generally understood to include premises used for professional business or consultation-based services, and explicitly lists several regulated health practitioners whose practices are primarily consultation-focused in nature. A clinic, by comparison, is defined as a facility used by healthcare professionals for the consultation, diagnosis, and treatment of patients. In practice, we know that these definitions do have overlap between them. Naturopathic practices typically involve professional consultation services that are comparable to other practitioners which are currently captured under the definition of office. However, some naturopathic services, such as vitamin injection and IV therapy, which I think will be spoken to shortly, may be interpreted as patient treatment and could therefore be viewed as falling into the definition of a clinic. This overlap does create uncertainty in determining the appropriate land use classification for naturopathic practices and may result in inconsistent interpretation and application of the land use bylaw. The proposed amendment to explicitly include naturopaths within the definition of office is intended to address this ambiguity and provide greater clarity and certainty in interpretation. All regulatory requirements have been met and are outlined here for you on this slide with the associated proposed change to the definition with naturopaths underlined for you there. As you'll see as well, there's several other practitioners who are explicitly identified within that definition currently. An amended definition to office would affect permissions in multiple zones throughout the town. However, the zone standards would not be altered and still apply as they do to all other enumerated health practitioners identified within the definition. You will have received a planning analysis report along with first reading. It was identified in our policy review specific to item 6 that there were no concerns or objections identified by either engineering or the community development department. And the proposed amendments do not alter development standards, increase permitted densities, or introduce uses that are considered incompatible with the zones in which offices are currently permitted. So again, staff recommend that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater give second and final consideration to the proposed text amendment within the land use bylaw to include naturopaths in the definition of office.
Thank you. Questions to the planner? This is second reading, so I know there was discussion before, but I don't know if there's any questions from council. No? Just keep moving my head back and forth. I don't want to miss anybody. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. I don't see the applicants are here. Is there a presentation from the applicants? Did you want to come and speak? Come on down if you just want to introduce yourselves.
I'm Dr. Suzanne Cody, naturopathic doctor.
And I'm Dr. Jamie Baldock, also I'm a naturopathic doctor. So, we originally planned this presentation for the public participation meeting, which didn't happen. So we thought that now would be a good time for us to just share what our vision is and what we're doing. And then if you have any questions for this final meeting, then we're here for them.
Yep.
All right. So really, what our vision is to really enhance the well-being of really not just Bridgewater, but the surrounding South Shore communities. So really, what as naturopathic doctors, our focus is in like preventative care. But also all of our well-being, and we can still work with conventional medical care systems as well. But really, we are a good place to fill in some of the gaps. And what we do is really target the root cause of some issues, and really take time to have patients be heard and healed.
And so with who we are where there's a growing need for and a growing desire for alternative and complementary healthcare, this is where we're coming in. A lot of patients or non-patients, but a lot of people are looking for this information and not finding it elsewhere. And so we're here as a resource, and we can offer that and offer that connection between conventional healthcare and be that ally to bridge the rest of it.
And so here's some of the things that we offer. As mentioned, we do consultations, and then some of the therapies we work with are lifestyle counseling, nutritional counseling as well, but also supplements, herbal medicines, homeopathy, and then Dr. Jamie and I are both have advanced training in IV therapy and regenerative injection therapies. A little bit different than your typical cortisone injections where, I won't get into the nitty gritty of it, but they help to regenerate injured tissue, so a bit of a different process than what they can receive elsewhere. And then we also have access to functional lab testing, so certain lab panels that go in more depth than what's offered conventionally. So you can do like a total men's health panel and cardiovascular panels and different access to different things like that. And also some other panels that can fill in the gap for those who don't have family doctors that really need to get, their thyroid tested or women's health and things like that. And then, like it says here on the PowerPoint, we're also going to be offering an infrared sauna and the ionic foot bath, so just some detoxy type of things, which is really cool to hear the earlier projects, because I feel like they really tapped into the health of the environment, and so that's going to affect the health of the body, right? So it seemed like a really cool theme that's happening here this evening with that.
And then in terms of what we can specifically offer the town, we see, currently Suzanne's practicing in Bridgewater, I'm practicing in Bedford, and moving my practice to Bridgewater. We bring patients in from outside the community, and so there'll be more traffic in Bridgewater in terms of more better business opportunity for the other businesses. Currently, I have patients travel from Yarmouth into the city, and if they can stop halfway and make it to Bridgewater to come in for their treatments, they'll be spending their dollars here as well. And then the health of the population of Bridgewater as well. So back to what we were saying about bridging the gaps, and for anyone who is looking to improve their diet, their lifestyle habits, and so there's less of the demand on the healthcare system, we'll be there for that as well.
Okay, so yeah, this is just kind of a market analysis. So yeah, growing demand for natural health solutions. I think specifically since the COVID times, there's been such an increase in interest in how do I stay well, and how do I get well, how do I stay well, what are the options for me to take care of myself to prevent anything serious from happening. And yeah, so that's kind of that part. And it says here that the aging population seeking holistic care. But we're also seeing a lot of young people who are really interested because they're aware of, kind of the ill health effects that some of the things in our environment have. And I just want to note too, even though I'm currently in Bridgewater, I haven't been able to offer all of the things in my scope because I'm in a really small office, so I wasn't able to do injections, IVs, those things. So I currently send people to Tantalent and HRM to get these therapies. And these therapies too are repetitive treatments. So when someone gets an IV, it's usually like, once a week for 3 weeks, and then we reassess, or sometimes it's a maintenance of once a month. So the specific therapies that we really want to get this text amendment for, that we're really able to provide, they have repeat visits that come to the town of Bridgewater, and nobody's doing them from Tantalent and to Yarmouth. There's nobody offering these types of therapies, IVs and injection therapies. There is a naturopath in Mahone, but she's not doing those therapies, and she's going to join us. So sometime, right?
And so based on the market analysis, based on the StatsCan report, this is just another point to what we were saying about how there's a growing need and growing desire for this medicine, with expected further growth of the 7.2% by 2030. And as Suzanne just pointed out, there's no other local MDs from Mahone Bay down to Yarmouth, and then offering the therapies, that radius is even wider, because we do offer some more of the advanced therapies that are in office therapies that we wouldn't be doing telemedicine for, so we'd be bringing people in for them. I didn't go to the slide.
Yeah, I think this is really just reiterating what we've been talking about. So yeah, just kind of unique regional access. We'll be the only full-time naturopathic clinic in the South Shore. Yeah, and also too, we'll just want to really collaborative healthcare practitioner space. So, and we just got officially regulated May 27th, so we're recognized now as regulated healthcare practitioners, which it looks like we'll be able to offer more, doing more lab requisitions and offering some more IVs that we weren't allowed to before. So things are starting, our scope is continuing to grow with this regulation. So definitely it's a really exciting time for dealing with.
And one of the other perks that we wanted as well is within the space is offering more community engagement, so workshops and having a space to host after hours. So whether it's our own practitioners hosting a wellness workshop for the community, especially some free workshops would be helpful. And also bringing in some colleagues or other healthcare professionals who want to host a workshop, so we can offer more of that community engagement as well on the after hours side within our space. And that's it.
I don't know if council has any questions for the applicant. No? Good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, there's no one else here from the public, so we don't have to go through that right now. So I don't have any closing remarks, so I will adjourn the public hearing. We will return back to open session, and I'm looking for a motion of council. Councillor Conklin.
Thank you. I move that town council for the town of Bridgewater approve and hereby conduct second and final reading of bylaw number 240, a bylaw to amend the land use bylaw pursuant to section 205 and 206 of the Municipal Government Act as contained in Appendix A of document 26-051B dated June 9, 2026 for an amendment to the definition of office to include naturopaths as an explicitly listed practitioner.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Wynot. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Great. Thank you. You want to clap for yourself? You can clap. Thank you. We have the minutes of June 9th, 2026, regular council meeting there. Any errors or omissions for those? In those, can I have a motion to approve those as circulated? Councillor Wynot, seconded by Councillor Frazier. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Down to business arising unfinished business, we have tax exemptions for affordable housing. A number of items here for us. Yeah, if you just scroll when Sarah says next page, that's probably the easiest. Yep.
All right. I'm presenting this evening on options for property tax exemptions for affordable housing. The purpose of this report is to provide council with information and analysis on property tax exemptions as potential tools to support affordable housing. Specifically, the report looks at two general exemption models and also responds to requests from the South Shore Open Doors Association for property tax relief as they work to acquire affordable housing units here in Bridgewater. Scrolling. Background. Thank you. So in June of 2025, Council received a presentation on incentives for affordable housing. Later in December of 2025, Council approved a Housing Accelerator Fund grant for SODO, or the South Shore Open Door Association, to support the acquisition of 82 rental units and directed staff at that time to return with more information on property tax relief options. Generally, under the MGA, Council does have the authority to grant full or partial property tax exemptions at their discretion. Excuse me. There are some existing town supports related to property tax relief and in support of housing affordability. These include grants. We also have provisions in our policy to support density bonusing where affordable housing units are provided. And we also do low-income homeowner tax relief options as well. However, there is currently no policy that provides ongoing property tax relief specific to affordable or nonprofit housing providers. We are seeing a growing need for affordable housing here in Bridgewater. We have a high proportion of renters, about 40% of residents are renters, and it is anticipated that that proportion of renter households will continue to increase. We are seeing indicators that housing insecurity are also increasing in the community. Over the past decade, the housing market has shifted significantly, with far fewer homes affordable to the average household. Market housing alone, we know, cannot address this issue, particularly for households that cannot afford market rents. This is why non-market and affordable housing options are increasingly important.
We also know that affordable housing is not a single category. It includes a range of housing types that serve different income groups and different needs. At one end of the spectrum is deeply affordable housing, which serves the lowest income households and is typically rent geared to income or heavily subsidized. At the other end are below market or workforce housing options, which are affordable relative to market units, but may not be accessible to households with very low incomes. Should council consider property tax relief policy, a key policy decision for council might be whether property tax relief should support the full spectrum of affordable housing or be targeted specifically to deeply affordable housing where the need is greatest, but implementation and monitoring requirements would also be quite high. We have heard through our engagement throughout our Housing Accelerator Fund initiatives that for affordable and nonprofit housing providers, property taxes are often one of the largest operating costs. Unlike market developers, these organizations have a limited ability to increase rents, which can offset rising costs. And ongoing property tax relief can help to stabilize operations and support long-term affordability, specifically in existing housing stock. So staff explored two main approaches to property tax exemptions. The first is a diminishing exemption, which provides high relief initially in its application and then phases that relief out over time. The second is a fixed exemption, which provides a consistent level of relief on an ongoing basis. Both approaches can be applied to either new non-market housing development or to the preservation of existing housing stock. I'll speak first to the diminishing exemption. Just go to the next slide. So a diminishing exemption is generally a time-limited exemption. Most look at about a 10-year period, with the highest relief coming in those early years. This model is often used to help with early financing or starting up costs as perhaps a new development might be leasing up. And while this does offer predictability and limits the long-term municipal exposure, it does not ensure that affordability is maintained over the time once that exemption expires, generally again within that 10-year time frame. And then on the other end, what we generally see with a fixed exemption is that it does provide a consistent level of tax relief over time, such as a 25% or a 50% reduction consistently year over year. This approach does offer predictability for housing providers and can support long-term affordability, but of course the trade-off is that it represents an ongoing municipal commitment rather than a time-limited incentive. So specific to the SODA request and acquisition, the organization is working to acquire 82 rental units in Bridgewater with the intent of preserving them as affordable housing under a rent geared to income model. Many of these properties, it would appear, are currently assessed well below market value, and the sale of those properties would trigger a reassessment of those values. We do anticipate, looking at the models that PBSC uses, that assessment would significantly increase. However, SODA would then have the opportunity to work with PBSC to reassess, to have a reassessment done based on the achievable income that they would be able to recoup based on that rent geared to income model. All of that to say, what's presented here this evening is a comparison of the different property tax exemption methods is theoretical at this point until that reassessment process has taken place. Again, we've used our best guess based on the modeling that PBSC does use that is standardized across the province. However, there's likely some negotiation to happen there before we know really what that outcome will be. So provided for you here, we've done a comparison of what a diminishing tax exemption over those 10 years would look like compared to a fixed exemption sitting at that 50% mark for 10 years.
And really maybe a key piece here is you can see that foregone revenue year over year for each approach. And where those two approaches kind of meet one another would really be in year 13 or 14. We see like in those 10 years, a diminishing exemption actually gives a greater exemption in that time frame, and it would take an additional few years of an exemption for those to kind of equate to the same kind of loss or gain for each party. Council, during discussion session, we did have a discussion about this in May, I believe. The question was asked of whether we're seeing other small communities that are implementing property tax exemption policy. From what we can see, they are far and few between. We did speak with staff in Wolfville who recently have had direction from their council around a very similar situation. And that what they have decided to do is to proceed with a temporary phased property tax adjustment to support a non-market housing provider who is also acquiring existing rental units. The relief that they would be providing only applies to the increase in the property tax following acquisition, with 100% of that being offset in year one, and then they're going to see that declining annually over a 5-year term until the provider is then paying their full taxation on that new assessment. They're doing this because they have identified with non-market providers that kind of relief is one of the most impactful things that municipal support can do around affordability. So all that being said, property tax exemptions are not fiscally neutral. Any foregone revenue must be absorbed through the broader tax base or municipal budget decisions. In this case, a reassessment of the SOTA properties could increase the assessment base, which may help offset some of those impacts of an exemption. But again, until that reassessment takes place, we really can't provide kind of direction or information on that in a very clear way. And then just considering enforcement and accountability of a policy for it to be put in place. Eligibility and affordability would need to be clearly considered and enforced. This could include annual reporting, proof of participation in recognized affordability program, either through the federal or provincial government, and a periodic review of those requirements. We do have similar monitoring already in place for those who have received density bonusing or grants that support affordable housing. So in summary, we do know that Bridgewater is facing a growing housing affordability challenge. Property tax exemptions are one tool that municipalities use to support affordable housing providers. Diminishing exemption could be a time-limited support that would incentivize short-term affordability, while fixed exemptions would better support a long-term affordability, but would require an ongoing commitment from the town. So staff recommendations this evening. Staff are not recommending the establishment of a new property tax exemption program at this time, but recommend that we continue to assess property tax relief requests on a case-by-case basis using our existing authority under the MGA. We would recommend deferring a decision on the SOTA request until updated property assessment information around values and tax impacts are known. And we would also recommend that Council advocate to the province of Nova Scotia for funding or revenue sharing mechanisms to support municipal property tax exemptions for affordable housing and kind of avoid shifting costs to local ratepayers.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah. Questions for our planner? Deputy Mayor?
Can you tell me more about the advocacy piece and what the hope and intention of that is?
Recognizing kind of the loss in revenue that could be seen by the town should an exemption be put in place. There are other instances, not around housing, but other things where the province does step in and then provide
Grant in lieu.
Yeah, grant in lieu to municipalities to support kind of that loss and make up for it. And given the growing need for affordable housing across the province, it's something that could maybe be pursued or advocated for on a larger provincial scale in order to support not just us, but a wider opportunity for those types of exemptions locally, just recognizing that it is such a cost to non-market providers, but also such a needed revenue for local municipalities as well.
So you're saying that it's something that is currently happening, just not on a wide scale?
It's not
Oh, it's
related to
not.
housing specifically, no.
Okay.
We get grants in lieu for provincial properties,
Yeah.
for example, like courthouse would be a great
Right.
example,
Yeah.
right? So we already get that, but not for housing.
Okay.
So the thought that that could be extended to housing, since affordable housing is the responsibility of the province, not municipalities, that would kind of keep it in their lane while recognizing that if we offset the property taxes, the revenue has to come from somewhere.
Right, okay, perfect, thank you.
Other questions or, the comment I'll make is to someone who's just watching this online, they may be like, boy, the town really doesn't want to do anything with affordable housing, which is not the case. I think that there does need to be a recognition that towns like Bridgewater, Truro, Yarmouth, like those urban centers are also like funnels. So we see the increasing need for affordable housing as people move to these urban centers because we have the services, which then if you are creating a policy of property tax exemption or reduction, you're shifting that burden of cost to other folks, then creating a situation where you need more affordable housing. It's just a cycle of, we're just deferring costs, putting it on other, it's not unlike the assessment cap, where you have this group of people carrying a disproportionate tax burden for other folks. So we want to be in a position to help. I think it's safe to say around the council table, we've all tried to figure out what we can do without then creating a situation where we're squeezing more people out. Taxes are what we hear probably the most. Taxes and roads are what we hear the most of. And I just talked to someone today where, half of your paycheck could go to the federal or provincial government. But $4,000 or $5,000 for your home, and that really it hurts because you see it, and we're closest to the people, but we're taxed through all orders of government. But we have to do something without then creating a situation where other people are paying more, and then just making it a cycle. So advocacy for sure, to your point, we have to do a better job of advocacy, recognizing that affordable housing really has to be put into towns and urban centers because it allows people to move about the community without a car potentially and things like that. But we can't, as the town of Bridgewater, create all the affordable housing for Lunenburg or the South Shore. Just like Liverpool can't do it for all of that area. Like, we need some help, and that help has to come from the province.
Just wanted to kind of add to that, it isn't a lack of willingness to support, because in most of these cases, it is nonprofits who are going to be able to build affordable housing, just given the market and the current conditions. Those nonprofits are going to require support forever. There's never going to be a time when they don't require some level of government funding. And we are often in a position where we're giving land or hundreds of thousands of dollars to support those projects happening, and then to also give a tax exemption on top of that is what we're looking at, not just, we're stacking things. And so, yeah, I just wanted to kind of add to that it's not an unwillingness to support these projects. There's definitely a willingness around this table. There's no question about that. It's just, we still have to provide the services. We have to pay for those services, and they have to be reliable and quality services at a certain standard. And when we reduce our ability to pay for them, it's not sustainable for us long term.
No, well said. Other comments or questions, or is someone prepared to put a motion on the floor? Councillor, why not?
No, I was looking for the mic.
Councillor Conklin?
Sorry. I was just putting my hand up to second Councillor. Why not?
You guys can duke it out.
I can do it as well. I can do it as well if you want.
So, we want to defer back. Here. I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater defer the decision regarding the South Shore Open Doors Association SODA request until SODA acquires the property and the updated property assessment values and the resulting tax implications are known.
Okay, seconded, that one seconded by Councillor Frazier. Any discussion on that one? Hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed, motion is carried. Someone prepared to make the,
I know where I am.
okay, do you want?
Thank you.
Okay.
I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater decline to establish a new property tax exemption program for the affordable housing at this time.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Wynot. Further discussion on that?
Can I just
Councillor-
make
yep.
a comment, just building back on to our earlier point about tax revenue? I think we all feel for it. I was just doing some numbers. 84% of, I believe, the town's revenue comes from property tax revenue. Just for anyone who's wondering, the province makes about 14% from HST, 25% from sales tax. They have a far better breakdown. I imagine the federal government is similar, so I just reinforce that. I imagine folks are going to watch this, and I feel very heavily on this. It just shows that we have a very undiversified revenue base compared to, I think, other levels of government and even other municipalities in the country. So hopefully those numbers are just helpful for people to understand kind of the unique situation that municipalities are in when asked for tax relief.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that, because we heard this at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference. This is across the country where it's and I know the FCM has called for a new fiscal framework for municipalities because we only really have that one source of revenue. And so, people notice on their tax bill when it goes up, but they don't necessarily look at every paycheck to see how much is coming off from the other orders of government, because they have like you said, they have such broad taxation powers that we can't tap into. And we've talked about looking at other creative sources of revenue, using the province as a tool for that. So one day, maybe. But for now, I'm glad you raised that. So we do have a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed, motion is carried. And we do have one more there about advocacy, if someone is prepared to make that motion. Councillor Newell, thank you.
I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater, recognizing the positive impact that property tax exemptions can have on the viability of affordable housing projects, advocate to the province of Nova Scotia to establish funding programs to offset municipal property tax for affordable housing and to support municipalities in delivering long-term affordable housing without shifting financial burden onto local ratepayers.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Conklin. Further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed, motion is carried. Thank you. Down to 10.2, we're going to talk about Energize Bridgewater. Our Deputy CAO.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a report that we've had done. It's a third-party evaluation of the Energize Bridgewater program, which culminated at the end of March. As you know, lots of research was done. We had Dr. Reaver from Montreal give an evaluation on certain components. We engaged Reflective Consulting from Newfoundland, and Alison Mullally-Ring is here. She's a credentialed evaluator. She's taken a look at the program. You've got some detailed reports there. There's a lot of information in those 4 reports that you have written. So tonight what she's going to provide is an overview of her findings and kind of give you a sense of what was a success and some things that perhaps weren't as successful as we thought, and an opportunity to ask her some questions.
Great, perfect.
Hi, Alison, can you hear us?
I can. Thank you very much.
The floor is yours.
Are we okay?
Yep, perfect.
Yeah. Excellent. So as was just mentioned, I am Alison Mullally-Ring. I'm with Reflective Consulting. I'm happy to be here with you folks virtually this evening. So together with Baseline Energy Analytics, we were contracted to conduct an independent evaluation of Energize Bridgewater, and today I'm going to go over a high-level view of the findings. So as a recall, just a high-level recap of the Energize Bridgewater project. So this was a community-led initiative to reduce household energy poverty, improve affordability and health, and cut community greenhouse gas emissions. And it was really a response to identified energy poverty among Bridgewater residents. And the program itself was designed to address energy poverty through a series of interconnected systems, and that was streamlined during the project to focus on key components of Energize Bridgewater, and those were residential energy efficiency upgrades through the home upgrades program, as well as the creation of SODA to connect residents with housing and social supports through coordinated access, and SODA being the South Shore Open Doors Association. And the third key component was the development of connected technologies through Bridgewise to monitor real-time energy use and indoor air quality. So just a high-level view of the evaluation itself. So we came in and we were looking to assess performance, outcomes, and impact, as well as identify lessons learned. So a bird's eye view of the evaluation itself is we looked at over 70 documents and data, a lot of really rich data in this project. We also had feedback from 12 stakeholders, 11 provided feedback through interviews, and we also had written feedback as well. The evaluation itself was conducted in a condensed timeline, relying heavily on previously collected data, and there were also a variety of external factors that directly shape program outcomes, so we want to keep those things in mind when interpreting the evaluation findings. So some key findings. So first, let's start with Energize Bridgewater home upgrades. So over the course of the program, looking at data that's collected to the end of January 2026, 163 households participated in the program, with 125 completing upgrades. Among the 125 households completing upgrades, there was an average reduction in modeled energy costs of 20%, which equates to about $800 a year, and modeled energy emissions reductions of 24%, or about 2 tons a year. Participants also reported increase in comfort and other benefits. At the community level, poverty rate trended down but was broadly stable. However, really thinking about stability in this context is really a positive result due to the conditions with rising utility costs and inflation and some other factors. So having relatively stable energy poverty rates is in that context is certainly good. Other indicators at the community level showed improvement, so things like fewer households going without heat due to unpaid bills. So that had dropped compared to baseline levels in 2022. And at the end of the day, the evidence is really highlighting the Energize Navigator as the heart of the program. So that person effect is really key to the success of the program. Moving on to coordinated access systems. So this is a person-centered housing first approach. It was originally designed to be a low barrier entry point for both energy poverty and housing related supports. However, during the program, it shifted to become the region's core housing and homelessness response infrastructure. This shift was based on community need and therefore is fully aligned with a housing first approach. Intake at the end of January was 870, so that's well beyond the target of 350. Furthermore, 184 households have been matched to housing, which is really, really great. The evaluation has shown that coordinated access through SODA is meeting an unmet need, filling a gap where no support was previously available. The connection between energy poverty and risk of homelessness is clear. SODA success is also evident through interest in scaling the model from other areas. Moving on to Bridgewise. Bridgewise was a key component of the Energize Bridgewater program. It was late to launch due to a number of factors, with Nova Scotia Power cybersecurity incident having a profound impact on the design and delivery of Bridgewise. While it was later to launch, it has been successfully piloted. Designing and testing the infrastructure is a key achievement. More time will be needed to demonstrate its impact, and there are opportunities to leverage this infrastructure in the future. Okay, so what does this all mean? So let's have a look at the achievement of outcomes. In terms of reducing the energy poverty rate, so the goal, the target was to reduce that energy poverty rate by 20%. So we're seeing that the energy poverty rates are fairly stable, but they are trending down. So we saw a 16% reduction. So we didn't hit that target. The target was not met. But it is going in the right direction, which again is positive, especially when you consider the rising utility costs and inflation. In terms of the other key measures, in terms of reducing home energy costs and greenhouse gas emissions, there was evidence that both of those met the target in terms of reductions in modeled data. So next, I'm gonna pull out some key recommendations that are really, intended to inform future programs, funders, and partner organizations that will be looking to design or scale a similar initiative. So the first would be strengthen and sustain the human-centered roles. So fully fund and staff navigator-type roles across future programs. This was really key to the success of the program from folks that we spoke with and the evidence that that were documented throughout the program. Create redundancy, cross-training, and succession planning. Embed trauma-informed practices across service delivery. Place renters and precariously housed individuals at the center of future program design. So consider portable heat pumps or renter-focused retrofit pathways. Retrofit pilots within nonprofit housing, and landlord incentives to tie to rent stabilization and tenant protections. With regards to system and policy, some recommendations or considerations would be to strengthen integration across energy, housing, and social supports, develop shared referral pathways between the different programs and municipal services, align assessment, consent, and data sharing practices where appropriate, and formalize those warm handoff procedures. Resource outreach early and simplify program identity. So launch communications early with dedicated staffing, create a single plain language point of entry for all programs, clarify which services are municipal, provincial, or nonprofit. Advocate for policy and structural changes at the provincial level. Change eligibility rules that exclude renters, support nonprofit housing retrofit pathways, create a provincial energy affordability mandate, enable municipal access to utility data for public interest evaluation, strengthen minimum housing and energy efficiency standards for rentals. And finally, some recommendations tied to technology and capacity. Document technical program aspects like Bridgewise for replication. So develop a short, shareable brief or knowledge product for other municipalities, utilities, and funders. Include details on architecture diagrams, staffing model, phasing, budget notes, and implementation lessons. Align this work with Smart Cities Challenge objectives to ensure that it could be replicated. Plan for realistic timelines, technical complexity, and municipal capacity. Build in longer planning and deployment windows. Seek multi-year funding for core staff. Use phased implementation for complex technical components. So at the end of the day, some final takeaways here from our evaluation of Energize Bridgewater. Lives were improved, capacity was built, a model proven, infrastructure created, and region-wide interest earned. So gaps remain, especially for renters who are the most vulnerable, but the foundation is here and it's time to build it. Thanks everyone, and I'm here for any questions you might have.
Great, thanks, Allison. Any questions from council on that? Councillor Caldwell?
What is your analysis of the number of household dwelling units that were completed versus the goals of the program?
Okay.
Oh, Deputy CAO's walking to the front as well.
Allison, I don't want to steal your answer, but I do want to support you if you need some further information.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if I had that number in front of me. I don't recall exactly how many houses were targeted off the top of my head. Do you have that number in front of you?
Is that about the 870 that were targeted beyond the to 350, but only 184 households were matched? Is that your?
Essentially,
yeah. Most of that was about how this was tailored to help people that had houses. So if you're renting and you don't own the building, a lot of these incentives wouldn't apply. And one of the recommendations that Allison mentioned is coming up with a way to incentivize and allow landlords to receive funding and incentives that could be implemented. Because when you're renting, you don't actually own the infrastructure. So giving you some of this upgrades isn't possible through some of the programs. So that was part of it. That's why the multi-unit dwellings buildings didn't really end up kind of panning out as we thought.
I think, is it fair to say, too, that some people, the idea of the program was to instantly lift you out of energy poverty, and so if you did the retrofits and it did not result in a net savings, then for some people, they didn't move ahead, because the idea was not to add a payment and not reduce the power consumption. I know that, at least early on, we had a number of people who the retrofits were so costly and the power savings weren't enough to justify it. It was going to put them in more energy poverty.
You had to do the 1-to-1 ratio
Yeah.
in order to be eligible for the financing through the town. So some of the older housing stock weren't able to achieve that.
I mean, the biggest gap for sure is 40% of people rent, and if your power bill is paid by the tenant, then there's no incentive for the landlord to put a dime of extra insulation or a heat pump in. And that is where I think the province has a leadership role to play to, it's always that what's in it for me kind of question. So what's the benefit to a landlord if they're not paying the power? Well, it's an investment in your property that is going to lift the value of your property, so it is good for your property. Having a tenant who has an ability to pay the rent and not be in energy poverty is probably good for a landlord too. But it's how do you, there's probably some that make that investment and there's others that are going to have to be dragged along to do it. I think that, because our target was more and we wanted more done, but I think it does come down to the landlord's not paying the bill.
Landlords as opposed to public or not-for-profit landlords, right? So
Yeah.
people that own their own buildings that have made those investments, how do we come up with some policy and some system that we can transfer some of those benefits to the owner of those buildings that can incent them to make those changes, maybe with some sort of stipulation to pass those benefits on to their renter, at least for a period of time. So those are things that would require some policy and probably some attitudinal changes at several levels to get that to happen, but that's kind of what's required to address that shortfall.
And you have to do that, recognizing the conversation we just had, without then shifting a burden to someone who then causes an issue where your power bill went down, but jacking your rent. So that, again, there does have to be it has to be a win-win somehow. Other questions from Council Deputy Mayor?
Just interesting, and maybe I'm putting more weight into your words than I should be, but you said that there were some things that didn't perform as well as you had anticipated. This is actually better than I thought it went. Were there some things that didn't perform quite the way you had hoped?
Yeah, I think the point that Allison made about coordinated access, I think we had a learning that, when the idea of SOTA was created, that everybody would come in through that funnel. And what perhaps wasn't fully understood was that people coming in through that funnel are just trying to get housing. And a lot of these benefits through this program were for people that had houses. So there's a fundamental definitional difference between what we were trying to do and what we created this intake system for. So But the learning is that the coordinated access system still provides benefits. It still is a good way to coordinate people getting access to housing, but just not get access to the benefits that were intended to be provided through this program.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, all right.
Thanks, Allison.
Thank you, Allison, very much for that. I will echo what the deputy mayor said. I found this report to be, a positive, meeting a lot of the targets, but to Councillor Caldwell's point, that some a little off, and we do know that the coordinated access just didn't do what we thought it was going to do, but it was new to us, and so overall, I think the takeaways are positive, and things we can keep going with.
Yeah.
Councillor Newell.
Well, I mean, just as a positive reminder for when Dr. Riva was here, I mean, we saw dollar for dollar stayed flat, but so once you factor in inflation, right, people came out ahead from that math. And, at the end of the day, something like the multi-unit program, I mean, that came out really late in the program. I think they were in their final year, more or less, when that came out. So that didn't really have much time to get traction. And same with Bridgewise, I think, took longer than anticipated. So it didn't really get to have an impact, never left that we could say beta, I'd probably say more of the alpha phase, but I think these are programs that very clearly, given more time, they probably could have been able to prove greater benefit than what they're able to provide in what was a pretty short time frame.
For sure. Deputy Mayor?
Also, because I brought up a negative, I want to show the positive of it too, but that was kind of the purpose of this project, was, we didn't know that it would be successful, we didn't know what would come of it, and even the things that didn't work out the way we expected were learned from and provided either a really valuable service that the community needed, or some knowledge and information that will either help this move forward or just helped us overall in learning. So that was the entire point, was to learn and see what we could get out of it.
Yep, 100%. Other questions or comments? No? All right. Thank you so much, Allison. That was great.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Down to new business, amendment to Chapter 192, property tax exemptions bylaw, first reading. I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, so this is
Pretty
really
straightforward.
it's just a housekeeping amendment, and it is to amend the property tax exemption bylaw to remove 48 Elm Street from the list of properties that receive full property tax exemption, as it's no longer owned by the South Shore Transition Housing Association. So we had removed it from a taxing purposes a while ago. This is catching up to that, because they haven't been occupying it for the use that council approved it for some time. So it's been removed from the list, and this is just cleaning that up.
Okay. Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Frazier, thank you.
Yes, Your Worship. I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater hereby conduct first reading of Chapter 241, a bylaw to amend Chapter 192, Property Tax Exemption Bylaw, as contained in Appendix A of Document 26-088 for amendments to Schedule A, which removes civic address 48 Elm Street from the list of exempted organization, as South Shore Transition House no longer owns or occupies that location, and pursuant to Section 168 of the Municipal Government Act, give notice of intention to conduct second and final reading of same during the regular meeting of Bridgewater Council on July 13, 2026.
Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor McDonald. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. I'm letting you know right now that meeting in July is going to be long. So, I don't know why I laughed at the end. That was nervous laughter. It wasn't like Stacy's, Councillor Collins checking his calendar to make sure he's away, but it's going to be a long one. Next item is our discussion session notes for June 1st are in there, and that's one of the topics that was discussed there was actually one that was brought up tonight in terms of the property tax exemptions. And my time to remind the public that all our documents are the same as the ones that the public has. You can just go on the town website, and under council and agenda, you'll see them there, just as they are on the screen and as we're going through. So all our notes are publicly available. 11.3 is appointments to the Heritage Advisory Committee. Well, we're getting a full-on presentation.
Just a brief summary. Hello, Council and Mayor.
We've received 2 new applications to serve for citizen members for the Heritage Advisory Committee. Per the terms of reference, the HAC shall be composed of not less than 5 members and no more than 9. The majority of the committee shall be residents or taxpayers of the town. Currently, the committee's membership is at a total of 6 members, including the 2 councillor appointments. The first application to serve comes from Christina Hemion. Christina is a resident of the town and has a background in fine arts, graphic design, having studied visual arts, art history, and architecture at Memorial University. She's recently moved to Bridgewater for its historic architecture and believes blending in contemporary and historic architecture. She's also got a growing interest in historical and genealogical research and has invested in heritage preservation through the restoration of her own King Street home from 1914. During the HAC's May 13th meeting, the application was brought forward to the committee, and there was a recommendation made that Christina be appointed as a new citizen member. The second application to serve comes from Cheryl Hannell. Cheryl is a resident of the town as well, having moved back to Nova Scotia almost 2 years ago and is looking to get back into museum life. She's an advocate of arts, culture, and history in the province and hopes to be part of efforts to preserve the South Shore. Cheryl's experience includes a broad range of skills, including costume interpretations as staff of Louisbourg National Historic Site, research assistants at Highland Village in Iona, Cape Breton, assistant curator of the Mahone Bay Settlers Museum, and an organizing member of Mahone Bay's 250th celebrations, and research contributions for a number of publications. She currently volunteers with the South Shore Regional Health Chemo Unit, Pleasantville Fire Department as a secretary in various committees in Pleasantville Baptist Church. During the HAC's June 10th meeting, the second application was brought forward and the motion was made to recommend Cheryl as a new citizen member. Staff on behalf of the HAC recommend the appointment of both Christina Hemion and Cheryl Hannell to serve as citizen members on the Heritage Advisory Committee for 3-year terms. These appointments will bring the membership to 8 members in total.
Wonderful. Thank you. Is someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Frazier.
Yes. Move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater appoint Christina Hemion and Cheryl Hannell as new citizen members to serve as the Heritage Advisory Committee in accordance with Section 4A II of the committee's terms of reference, effective immediately to June 22nd, 2029.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Newell. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. In terms of 11.4, I think we're going to ask to defer 11.4, the park naming, while we just get some additional information. So that will come back to council. So we do just have one last item, and that is our summer meeting schedule. So as you know, we kind of just have a discussion session and one council meeting in July, discussion session and one council meeting in August. So that's a change. We're dropping a meeting in each month. So if someone could make the motion to kind of make that official, that'd be great. Councilor Newell saw his hand up first, sorry.
What?
Your hand was up all day.
He's working hard. Working hard.
I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater set the 2026 summer meeting schedule for the months of July and August as follows. July discussion session on Monday, July 6, 2026, and council meeting for Monday, July 13th, 2026. And then for August, discussion session Tuesday, August 4th, 2026, and council meeting Monday, August 10th, 2026.
Perfect. Seconded by Councillor Wynot. Anyone want to not do that and add more meetings? No?
I would like to make the comment that although we are removing a meeting, those meetings will be just as long as if we just had 2 meetings. So the public should still know we will be putting the same amount of hours.
Oh, the hours are in, yeah.
But it's just like a very, very long meeting.
Yep. Yes. All right, all those in favor? Those opposed, motion is carried. Thank you. Don't forget Canada Day next Wednesday. So thank you to Councillor Frazier for all the stuff going on. Next Monday is Parkview Grad, so congratulations to all the students graduating from all, junior high, elementary, all high school. college and all the post-secondary education. So congratulations, we're very proud of the students that were educated and raised in our community and hopefully are remaining here and raising their family now that there's 86 new childcare spaces. And with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Newell, seconded by Councillor Frazier. We are adjourned. Thank you.